Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, GCP, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
Ryan,
and Matthew.
Episode 328, recorded for October 28th, 2025. Shh, it's a secret region. Good evening, Ryan and Matt. How you guys doing?
Yeah, been better. How about you?
Amazon didn't crap the bed today, but I guess Azure technically did, since we are recording on Wednesday.
I'm just saying it's your guys' turn next week, so, good luck, Google.
It's been a while since, Corey Quinn reappeared back on Twitter recently, and so I've been sort of enjoying his comments again, and he's like, so all those people saying multi-cloud, so now you get to do these major outages across every cloud. So last week was AWS's turn, and this week is Azure's turn, and so if you're doing multi-cloud, you just had 2 7.1 outages in 2 weeks. Good luck to you. I was like, yeah, that is true. I hadn't really thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully you don't have that many 7.1 outages from your providers this close together, but it does unfortunately happen sometimes.
I still like your comment of, look at what 2 companies are about to have their big conferences and definitely releasing features in the back end. And guess which 2 just had major outages?
Yep.
Related? I don't know. We'll find out.
Related? No, never. I mean, we have our GCP fun in March heading into April. Yeah. So,
yeah.
This is when you guys have all your fun. So, I mean, the problem with Microsoft though is they do have 2 conferences because they have Build and they have Ignite, and both of them are feature drops. So Azure gets twice as lucky. Or
I still feel like Build is a little bit more developer tools.
Oh, it is
it's
for sure.
More like GitHub and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, technically, Google has Google I/O, I think it is, which is more on the mobile and developer side as well. But they do occasionally drop some features and capabilities for those things. So, all right, well, let's get into what's happening here in the cloud. First up, Fastly's is now dropping monthly DDoS reports, just like Cloudflare does, and as well as AWS. And their report reveals a notable 15.5 million requests per second attack that lasted over an hour, demonstrating how modern application layer attacks can sustain extreme throughput with real HTTP requests rather than simple pings or amplification techniques. Attack volumes in September did drop 61% of August levels, with data suggesting a correlation between school schedules and attack frequency. Darn those children. Media and entertainment companies face the highest median attack sizes, followed by education and high technology sectors, with 71% of September's peak attack day attributed to a single enterprise media company. The sustained 15 million RPS attack originated from a single cloud provider, ASN, using sophisticated daemons that mimic browser characteristics, making detection more challenging than typical DDoS patterns. Organizations should evaluate whether their incident response runbooks can handle hour-long attacks at 15 plus million RPS, and the answer is no, it cannot.
No.
As these sustained high throughput attacks require automated mitigation rather than manual intervention. If someone wants to send 15 million requests to the Cloud Pod, I'm just turning off the website for the day.
Mm-hmm.
So
just let it crash. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, technically, the podcast episodes themselves are hosted elsewhere. So if you take the website down, I'm not really going to give a crap because people can still get the episodes. You can't silence us that easily.
Yeah. Well, and it should be behind, what is it? Amazon Shield, whatever. Like, which is automatically
CloudFront and WAF protection and cloud. Whatever the DDoS
there's a
is.
DDoS thing that's automatically attached to that load balancer.
Shield, and I don't pay for Shield Advanced though because it's expensive.
Yeah, no, you don't need Shield Advanced. But the basic stuff should get captured from basic DDoS. Although, what am I saying? I don't want to invite this on.
Yeah, let's not do this to ourselves.
Take it all down.
I do, because that would mean somebody's listening to us and we're just not babbling into the void. So,
I mean, I have enough people who've stopped me at conferences know that we do get listened to. Yeah. It's a little weird when that happens, but it's fun. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, nice. And you thank them for listening and move on with your world. FinOps X was last time that happened. So, but someone invited me to reInvent, and I was like, why would I go to reInvent? They're like, for all the cloud stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. Like, there's drinking. And I'm like, okay, you have me almost with drinking, but
But then you got Vegas on the other side for 4 days.
Yeah. I mean, I could maybe, if I was just going drinking in Vegas during reInvent, I would just go for like Tuesday and come back Wednesday. I wouldn't even make it more than a full 24 hours, I don't think.
Just don't even book a hotel room. It's fine.
Exactly. Who needs a hotel for that? So let's move on to AI is how ML makes money this week. First up, Google AI Studio is introducing vibe coding. I mean, you can't really introduce vibe coding at this point. It already exists. They're adding to the noise of vibe coding is maybe how I word that. With a new AI-powered development experience that generates working multimodal apps from natural language prompts without requiring API key management or manual service integration. The platform now automatically connects appropriate models and APIs based on app descriptions, supporting capabilities like VO for video generation, Nano Banana for image editing, and Google Search for source verifications. The new annotation mode enables visual app modifications by highlighting UI elements and describing changes in plain language rather than editing code directly. The updated app gallery provides visual examples of Gemini-powered applications with instant preview, starter code access, and remix capabilities for rapid prototyping. Users can add personal API keys to continue development when free tier quotas are exhausted, with automatic switching back to free tier upon your renewal. So there are still API keys. They made it sound like there wasn't, but there is. You just don't have to manage them until you've consumed your free tier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so funny because I've noticed that I can't take an article seriously when they're using vibe coding unironically. Like I just it's something about it, and like even though my daily sort of use case with AI is sort of moving more and more to that vibe coding model, although I feel like what I do is a little bit more tactical and pointed. But maybe that's just me trying to be smug, and just I can't stand the vibe coding, like the way that it's talked about.
I mean, I feel like it's talked about like, someone that has no idea how to code is doing it, versus I feel like the way the three of us and Jonathan use it is more like, okay, go do this stuff, and then we can at least get in the weeds and kind of direct it and help us. So, when it just keeps going left, we can at least know to steer it to the right because we at least have general software development practices. But I feel like vibe coding in general is just straight. Write me a web app that does this.
It reminds me of the worst part of the Silicon Valley culture of technology is the bro coders. Like vibe coding, like very closely aligns to my mind of bro coders. And so that's, I think, where probably Ryan's aversion to the word comes from. But I do think when we talk about vibe coding here, typically we're talking about more about, being thoughtful about your prompts and breaking down your work into small pieces. And then the AI does magic around that. But, we're not just saying like, create me a mobile app that's going to take over the world. And then, turn around 3 days later and there's a vibe coded thing that doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah. And, in my head, I remember like when vibe coding was sort of announced as like a practice, and it was like, there were some really terrible things that I didn't like you don't do features additions, just start over. Right. That kind of thing.
I remember that. That was brutal.
Like there's a couple of things like that, which I don't know, like I don't know how real vibe coding is first, because I don't care. And, like if there is more prescribed.
Yeah, you do it almost every day, don't you?
That's no, I don't. And I will adamantly deny that I do vibe coding. It's just my day-to-day work life has become a lot closer to that description than I'd like.
Don't look over here.
Yeah.
I'm not here.
Yeah. The amount of code I'm actually writing, like typing my hand versus just reviewing and getting prompts has gone down dramatically. Like I still do, and I review line by line for sure, but it's like I find myself getting lazier. Like, go edit this config file.
Yeah, here's a config. It does not work. Please tell me how to fix this.
There's an environment variable. It should be this. Yeah. Go make sure it's not everywhere. I do it under that guy. So no, it's refactoring. No, it's not. I know exactly where it is, and it's one place, and I'm just too lazy to go find it and fix it.
I was playing with a new Azure service I'd never used before, and I was like, I need to do this. And then I was like, generate me Terraform. But then I was like, I don't even understand if this Terraform is correct because I don't really understand how to use this service yet. And that's where I feel like a lot of people are like, do this thing. And I'm like, okay, but you don't know if what it's doing is correct or not. I actually had to learn the service and I could help guide it more. It was still 65% correct, but obviously it launched the super premium and whatever they called it and Azure. So, whatever.
All right. OpenAI is launching company knowledge for ChatGPT business, enterprise, and the education plans, nailing direct integration with corporate data sources, including Slack, SharePoint, Google Drive, Teams, and Outlook, notably excluding OneDrive, which could impact Microsoft-heavy organizations. So weird. I think I've heard of this. It's called Microsoft 365. This feature requires manual activation for each conversation and lacks capabilities like web search, image generation, or graph creation when enabled, unlike Microsoft 365 Copilot's deeper integration across Microsoft apps. ChatGPT business pricing at $25 per user per month undercuts Microsoft 365 Copilot's $30 per month. Ooh, $5, please. Potentially offering a more cost-effective enterprise AI assistant option with stronger brand recognition. Security implementation includes individual authentication per connector, encryption of all data, no training on corporate data, and an enterprise compliance API for conversational log review and regulatory reporting. And data residency and processing locations vary by connector with no clear documentation from OpenAI, requiring organizations to verify compliance requirements before their deployment. So, I mean, everyone is trying to do the same thing. Everyone wants to create the AI of knowledge data inside of enterprises. And so ChatGPT doing this makes sense because they're also sort of going through a divorce with Microsoft at the moment. And so in some future world state, there may not be the partnership between OpenAI and Microsoft. But, I'm not surprised that they're doing this because Gemini's doing it. Everyone's doing this, etc.
And it's a huge problem. It has been a huge problem that people have been trying to solve for a while, with whether it was a, enterprise only search function
Kendra,
or
Amazon Kendra.
The Google corporate search, the one you server that you had back in the day too, that would scan all your internal stuff.
Oh yeah, the search appliance. Yep, I remember
the
that.
Search appliance. Yeah, like that's what I feel like everyone's trying to solve. Again, the same problem we've been solving for 15 years.
Yeah. And, I do think that, this wave of AI is the closest we've come to it, but it still suffers the same problem, which is like there's caveats to integrating with all these services. There's a bunch of issues with authentication and managing that. The fact that this has to authenticate for every conversation, like that's a chore.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a big problem is that you need your model to be aware of the data that is in these documents. So that way, when you're having the chat conversation, it can find the sources of it. But if you're not supposed to have access to those documents, then things get tricky. And so it's like, well, the model now has data that it shouldn't give to these employees. Like, I've heard a horror story about someone accidentally had an Excel file of all of their salaries on it, and this model picked it up and trained it, and then you could literally ask like what Bob made in accounting, and it would tell you. And so these are problems that you have to solve, and it's a really complicated problem when you think about authorization. And so a lot of the solutions to these is that each person uses their own personal credentials to be able to access a thing, but then that brings up more costs, which is complicated.
And not as good results, right? Because then everything that's contextual is just a local rag that's pretty ephemeral, and it's not as good as like a model that's trained on the specific data. But it's all kinds of issues too, right? Because our largely our authentication and authorization schemas are group based, and so when you're approaching it from sort of accessing data from like a chat thing, it's not really something that in advance that you can say, oh, I have access to this. And so our applications that manage identity don't have the attributes needed to make these logical decisions, or they're not configured. So it's like it's passing a lot of custom claims if you do SSO and configuring all that, which isn't in place. It's pretty difficult.
But also making sure all your data is actually set up properly and properly classified and everything along those lines, because all those fun things that you have to do as part of ISO, you have to make sure they're set up correctly. And if they are, then you're good. But if you're not, then you're going to leak data.
Just notice that it integrates with SharePoint, but not OneDrive. That's an interesting decision.
It is interesting. I don't really understand. I mean, other than the access model on OneDrive is a little weird. So,
but it's so SharePoint. It's awful. Anyway.
All right. Well, we were just talking about Microsoft and OpenAI and their future, and they apparently have settled their differences and have now agreed to hourly payments. Microsoft and OpenAI have restructured their partnership, with Microsoft now holding approximately 27% stake in OpenAI's new public benefit corporation valued at $135 billion, while maintaining exclusive Azure API access and IP rights until AGI is achieved. The agreement introduced an independent expert panel to verify AGI declarations and extends Microsoft's IP rights for models and products through 2032, including post-AGI models with safety guardrails through the research IP expires by 2030 or AGI verification. OpenAI gains significant operational flexibility, including the ability to develop non-API products with third parties on any cloud provider, releases open weight models meeting capability criteria, and serve U.S. government and national security customers on any cloud infrastructure they choose. Microsoft can now independently pursue AGI development alone or with partners, and if using OpenAI's IP pre-AGI, must adhere to compute thresholds significantly larger than current leading model training systems. OpenAI has committed to purchasing $250 billion in Azure services, while Microsoft loses its right to first refusal as OpenAI's compute provider, signaling a shift towards more independent operations for both companies. So that's a pretty big deal. And there's a blog post in the show notes for both from Microsoft and from OpenAI, so you can see how each of them is spinning this. OpenAI does mention in their article that the revenue sharing agreement continues with AGI verification, but payments will be distributed over a longer time frame, while Microsoft retains exclusive rights to the frontier models. So, limited once AGI is achieved is an interesting choice.
That is an interesting choice.
I wonder how Microsoft doesn't believe that's going to happen very soon, and OpenAI doesn't. That's why they're willing to agree on that term. Or it's interesting. Again, and it has to be independently verified by a partner to say, so OpenAI can just come out and say we've created AGI, then into a legal dispute that has to be agreed upon by others. So that's all very interesting.
I wonder if OpenAPI is being protective of it because they think, I think it will be sort of game changing and no one really knows how. So they're sort of laying out the boundaries for that, or if it is just Microsoft making their choice, because I can see it either way. But I also look forward to this agreement changing in 3 weeks like it did last time. So I can't keep up with.
Well, I think this now allows them to go IPO, doesn't it, on the public traded company or the public interest company, whoever that is. So I'm sure there'll be lots of further discussions, and then there'll be a disclosure if they're going to try to go public or IPO. Although I think it's still probably early for them to IPO, but we'll see. And if they actually achieve true AGI, IPO is kind of dumb because no one will have any money to buy anything, because we'll all be unemployed. Right. Because AGI is doing all the work.
If not converted to batteries that are just being powering AI data centers.
Too soon, I think.
I guess, yeah.
I was trying to figure out where to go with that.
The movie came out in 99, man.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to that feature, but okay. AWS is announcing general availability of web grounding for Amazon Nova Premier, a built-in RAG tool that automatically retrieves and cites current web information during inference. The feature eliminates the need to build custom RAG pipelines while reducing hallucinations through automatic source attribution and verification. And the web grounding operates as a system tool within the Bedrock Converse API, allowing Nova models to intelligently determine when to query external sources based on prompt context. Developers simply add Nova grounding to the tool config parameter, and the model handles retrieval, integration, and citation of public web sources automatically. Features available to you in U.S. East North Virginia and Ohio and Oregon regions, coming soon. Primary use cases include knowledge-based chat assistants requiring current information, content generation tools needing fact-checking, research applications synthesizing multiple sources, and customer support where accuracy and verifiable citations are essential. This is the first time I've heard anything about Nova in months. So, good to know, unless they laid all those people off this week. But finally glad to see some Nova enhancements happening.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot it existed.
Yeah, I always forget it existed because I don't use it day to day. I do like this feature, and I do think it's great that it's just like a config option you can turn on. I don't like it enough to go research the pricing model because I was too lazy, because it is extra on top of your original inference call. So it is sort of interesting there. And I wonder, it seems odd to me, but I don't know really how the pricing model on these things work.
Per million tokens.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it all works.
Still don't know. You know what?
It's so hard to calculate. In cloud tools this week, Harness is introducing an AI-powered database migration authoring that lets developers describe schema changes in plain English, like create a table named animals with columns for genus species, and automatically generate production-ready SQL migration with rollback scripts and Git integration. The tool addresses the AI velocity paradox, where 63% of organizations ship code faster with AI, but 72% have suffered production incidents from AI-generated code. By extending AI automation to database changes, which remain a manual bottleneck in most CI/CD pipelines, or it results in you just dropping more database tables than you really wanted to and causing more outages. But whatever. This is built on Harness's software delivery knowledge graph and MCP server. It analyzes current schemas, generates backwards compatible integrations, and validates for compliance that integrates with existing policy as code governance. Database DevOps is one of Harness's fastest growing modules. With customers like Athena Health reporting they save months of engineering effort compared to Liquid-based Pro or homegrown solutions while getting better governance and visibility.
What could go wrong?
So I get to just say, migrate me from Microsoft SQL to Postgres, and it will magically do it?
That's what they say. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
see
given
no
how hard
problems
this
with
is
this.
for humans to do, I look forward to AI doing it better. But like it is going, like the devil's always going to be in the details of these things, like changing it and then changing it at scale is tricky. So it's like great for deployment or development, and you're creating something new and need to make little changes, but larger changes, like how would you do this? Ugh.
I mean, Liquibase is also not easy. So anything to make that
Yeah.
sort of an easier process, I think is a plus. Again, like you're very much drinking the Kool-Aid of harness at this point if you're in this model.
Oh yeah, I forgot this is a harness release. Yeah, so this is, yeah, scary.
Moving on to AWS reports, or an unverified report claims Amazon replaced 40% of their DevOps staff with AI systems capable of automatically fixing IAM permissions, rebuilding VPC configurations, and rolling back failed Lambda deployments. Though AWS has not confirmed this, and skepticism remains high. The timing coincides with the recent AWS outage that impacted major services across the internet. And AWS officially laid off hundreds of employees in July, and also this week, 14,000 of them, in fact. But the alleged 40% DevOps reduction would represent a significant shift towards AI-driven infrastructure management if true. The incident highlights growing concerns about cloud service concentration of risk, as both the AWS outage and the 2023 Windows CrowdStrike incident demonstrated how single points of failure can impact thousands of businesses. I mean, in general, like Amazon's been doing a lot of layoffs. They've had a lot of brain drain. I don't know that they automated 40% of their DevOps staff with AI systems. I also don't know that they actually have that many people who actually have a DevOps title as well. So this one is a little bit rumory and a little speculative, but I did find it fun that people were trying to blame AI for Amazon's woes last week.
I was kind of getting the impression that some of the metrics were sort of blended between Amazon and AWS, because like I don't think AWS laid off 14,000 people. I'm like, that's a little much.
I mean, they have a massive workforce. I mean, they did lay off 2,300 per the WARN notice in Seattle. That's just one state. So, I mean, they have offices everywhere.
I mean, thousands make sense, but 14,000 14,000?
I mean, the rumor is that they're going to do 30,000 total.
For just AWS?
No, for Amazon as a whole.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I agree. I believe that these are valid numbers for Amazon, just not.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I mean, I do wonder. I did see some rumors on Twitter. They're like, well, AWS wasn't really impacted because they don't want to risk reInvent. So all those layoffs will happen after reInvent. I was like, I hope not, because that's a terrible Christmas present.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that's not true. But
well, it depends on what the packages are too, right? If you're just paying people to be off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the packages are.
I mean, it doesn't help, right? Like buying, with planning for the future and trying to buy, presents when thinking you're not going to have a job come February or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, that's not an ideal scenario. I mean, layoffs, this year, 218 tech companies, 112,000 tech companies laid off allegedly, which is less than 2024 and less than 2023. But the numbers you see going out there are just crazy. So I am not entirely sure that layoffs FYI is even up to date on all the layoffs that happen, because a lot of them are being done in ways that avoid WARN notices as well.
Yeah, or much quieter. Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see, with the government shut down right now, we don't get jobs numbers that we can trust for a while. So be curious once the government does reopen what we see these numbers actually looking like. I did see interest rates went down today though, so that's a win. Well, Amazon has produced a report that does not say that AI replaced the DevOps people, which is why they had an outage. Instead, they blamed it on DNS. Duh. DynamoDB, they say, experienced a 2.5-hour outage in US East 1 due to a race condition in its DNS management system that resulted in empty DNS records affecting all services dependent on DynamoDB, including EC2, Lambda, and Redshift. The cascading failure pattern showed how tightly coupled Amazon services are, like EC2 instance launches failed for 14 hours before DynamoDB's outage prevented lease renewals between EC2's Droplet Workflow Manager and physical servers. Network load balancers experienced connection errors from 5:30 a.m. to 2:09 p.m. due to health check failures caused by EC2 network state propagation delays, demonstrating how infrastructure dependencies can create extended recovery times. AWS has disabled the automated DNS management system globally and will implement velocity controls and improve throttling mechanisms before re-enabling, highlighting the challenges of balancing automation with resilience. Incident reveals architectural vulnerabilities and multi-service dependencies. Services like Redshift in all regions failed IAM authentication due to hard-coded dependencies on the US East 1 region, suggesting a need for better regional isolation, which is surprising considering how much Amazon touts everything will fail and trust nothing outside the region.
I mean, their write-up was good. I don't know if I assume you guys have read it, but walking through it, like, I do like the level of detail. You know, my wife yelled at me because I was sitting there reading it when it first came out that night. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "This is interesting." But like, I liked how detailed they went. And like, they go into it. It's like, look, there was a race condition that's been there for years around around this internal service, and, you know, and how they talked about like each availability zone has their own like little setup of it. So like, it's a good write-up to show that, look, even these large cloud providers that have these massive systems and have redundancy upon redundancy upon redundancy, it's all software under the hood. Mm-hmm. Software will eventually have a bug in it. And this just happens to be a really bad bug that took down half the internet. You know, so.
I mean, it does suck how big these things are, but it's kind of amazing how few and far between they can be now, you know, versus the older days where it seemed much more common, especially in US East 1. But yeah, there's still going to be issues here and there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like that they broke down, you know, each service, you know, its failure, the problems they were showing, what it took to recover that service. So, it is a very detailed incident report. So if you were like, well, I don't use DynamoDB, but I was still impacted, but my network load balancer was, or, you know, my security token service API calls were impacted. Like, they break it down by each service and what the impact was and why and what they're doing to hopefully avoid that in the future. So, you know, these are always important to see, you know, what are they going to do to improve things? And they do detail that as well. And, you know, for all the cloud providers, you know, Amazon has always had a very strong desire to not be regionally dependent across region. And so they are typically very single region, where other cloud providers have global things like global networks and other global front door services that were down this morning, et cetera. So,
Still down.
You understand that these trade-offs in architecture design become your trade-offs in your application architecture as you design your systems. And so the Amazon model of always design for failure is still very important. And even relying on a single region or multiple availability zones in a region does open you up to some risk.
There are a lot of cloud cost management tools out there, but only Archera provides cloud commitment insurance. It sounds fancy, but it's really simple. Archera gives you the cost savings of a 1 or 3 year AWS savings plan with a commitment as short as 30 days. If you don't use all the cloud resources you've committed to, they will literally put the money back in your bank account to cover the difference. Other cost management tools may say they offer commitment insurance, but remember to ask, will you actually give me my money back? Archera will. Click the link in the show notes to check them out on the AWS Marketplace.
All right. Well, if you wanted to write your incident reports, CloudWatch is now automatically generating your post-incident analysis reports by correlating telemetry data, investigation inputs, and actions taken during an investigation, reducing the report creation time from hours to minutes. Now, most companies don't do those, so congratulations, you just got automated post-incident analysis reports, which is kind of nice. Reports include executive summaries, event timelines, impact assessments, and actionable recommendations, helping teams identify patterns and implement preventative measures for better operational resilience. The feature integrates directly with CloudWatch investigations, capturing operational telemetry and service configurations automatically without manual data collection or correlation. It's currently available to you in 12 regions. No specific pricing to mention, although I assume it'll lay on top of the existing CloudWatch investigation costs. This addresses a common pain point where teams spend a significant time manually creating incident reports instead of focusing on root cause analysis and prevention strategies.
Every time I read these stories, I just thank my lucky stars that I make internal software. And, you know, the root cause is always known. It's me. I'm the root cause. And it would be fun to turn this type of service on for my internal services to be like, oh yeah, no, you did a deployment and then everything broke. Like, huh, yeah, wonder.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great service. Obviously, you have to be in the ecosystem as somebody that has to write up postmortems and things like that for my day job. You know, anything that makes my life easier, but, you know, even then, it's not like you can immediately ship this. I'm sure a legal department or somebody has to review everything before it goes out the door. So, but it's a good starting point, and I would take this over me having to sit there and look at a blank sheet of paper, going, "All right, where do I start here, guys?"
Yeah. What are the 5 whys? Like, yeah.
I actually always get upset when people start with 5 whys because it's just like it only works in a single root cause scenario, and the reality is that if you are designing software well, there's never a single root cause. There's always multiple root causes.
Yeah, multiple things should have to fail and before the impacts are known, right? Like, yeah.
But that's why outages take longer to fix nowadays, which is the fun part.
Especially in distributed systems. Things get real fun, real quick. Customer Carbon Footprint tool is expanding its capability by adding additional emission categories, including Scope 3, all available to you now. The Scope 3 emissions data covers fuel energy-related activities, IT hardware lifecycle emissions, and building equipment impacts, giving customers a complete view of their carbon footprint beyond just direct operational emissions. The tool provides both location-based and market-based emission calculations with 38 months of historical data recalculated using the new methodology accessible through the AWS Billing Console with CSV export and integration options for QuickSight visualizations. Scope 3 emissions are amortized over asset lifecycles, 6 years for IT hardware, 50 years for buildings, to fairly distribute embodied carbon across operational lifetime, with all calculations independently verified following GHG protocol standards. Early access customers like Salesforce, SAP, and Pinterest report that granular regional data and Scope 3 visibility helps them move beyond industry averages to make targeted carbon reduction decisions based on actual infrastructure emissions. The tool remains free to use with AWS Billing and Cost Management Console, providing emissions data and metric tons of CO2 equivalents to help organizations track the progress towards sustainability goals and compliance reporting requirements. So I think we talked about this before, that they were kind of avoiding the Scope 3, sort of felt dirty, like they were cheating the system. And so it's nice to see them come back and say, no, we now have Scope 3, and we've recalculated all of our things to calculate a true Scope 3 number across the 3-year window. So that's great.
Yeah, I think that the detail they provide of how they're, distributing the carbon impact is, I think it was more or less about like cheating the system and more just it's hard, and they had to figure out how to do it.
I mean, this is a difficult problem to solve. Once you have Scope 3, it's all your indirect costs. So, I think if I remember correctly, like Scope 1 is like your actual server, Scope 2 is like power, and then Scope 3 is all the things that have to get included in to generate your power and your servers, which includes shipping, etc. So like getting all that is not an easy task to do. I look at the numbers and I'm like, I don't know what these mean half the time when I have to look at them. I'm like, we're going down. That seems positive.
Yeah. It's just going to turn, it's so complicated. It's going to turn into financial audits, right? Like your carbon audit is going to be the same, and it's going to be hard. And there's going to be people that are really deep into the forensic analysis of this data.
There's going to be an ISO standard for it in the future, and requires independent audits before you have your formal audit, and then we all hate lives.
Oh God, you're right. Oh,
you started it.
Yeah, but I don't have to do financial audits. I have to do ISO audit.
AWS is launching the Secret West region. Shh, it's a secret. I know how to kill you all. Its second region capable of handling secret level US classified workloads, expanding beyond the existing Secret East region to provide geographic redundancy for intelligence and defense agencies operating in the Western United States. The region meets stringent Intelligence Community Directive ICD 503 and DoD Security Requirements Guide Impact Level 6 requirements, enabling government agencies to process and analyze classified data with multiple availability zones for high availability and disaster recovery. This expansion allows agencies to deploy latency-sensitive classified workloads closer to Western U.S. operations while maintaining multi-region resiliency, addressing the critical gap. AWS continues to operate in specialized market segment with limited competition, as few collaborators can meet the security clearance and infrastructure requirements necessary for secret-level classified hosting. Pricing information is not publicly available due to the classified nature of the service, but assume it's expensive.
I feel like I know Azure has.
They have a secret region too, yeah.
Yeah, level. I thought they also have level 10. I think AWS does too. So does GCP? Because I feel like then all three major cloud providers do.
I do not believe they have an IL6, or I think they have IL5.
That they'll tell us.
Yeah, they'll tell us about.
GCP for Google Cloud achieves DoD IL6 for GDC.
Oh,
So
all right.
they don't do that in dedicated sites. So GCP does handle their isolation at a very different level than Azure and AWS in that they don't have separate regions for these. They do it by sort of a continuous audit analysis of existing sort of workloads. And so like on, the actual infrastructure on the Google side, I'm sure is all in one place and isolated at some point, but it's from a customer perspective, you just sort of declare that your workload it needs to meet this classification, and it sort of manages it all under the hood and displays your compliance where you're good and where you're not. It's pretty crazy.
Well, and it's interesting because the government is basically, pushed out at the beginning of the year FedRAMP 20X, which basically says that the way Google does it is the way they prefer to do it, where they don't want to have isolated gov clouds and secret regions, and they want it to be part of the commercial thing because what they identified is that, the FedRAMP being in its own isolated environments means that the government doesn't get features as fast, basically. But then they did the FedRAMP 20X program, and it's better, but they still don't really handle, rapid change in the environment. They still have really draconian patching requirements that, even the government users hate. Like, these companies have to take all this maintenance to do, 7-day SLAs on, certain types of defects and issues. So, there's a bunch of things that the government's not happy about with FedRAMP. And then there's, attempts to make it better with FedRAMP 20X, but, there's still a long ways to go. And so these secret regions were probably built before 20X began, but again, government's saying they don't really want that model. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that shakes out over the next decade.
Yeah.
It'll become a local zone or something like that. At one point they'll have it moved out and become a local zone or something like that. They'll leverage it.
And it's sort of like, I don't know if I think that if, some of these requirements are very strict network isolation and isolation where it almost makes more sense to segregate it off. So I wonder, I've never done anything. I've never even looked at anything that's like top secret or anything along those lines. So maybe I don't know, but it sounds hard.
I mean, if you get really detailed into it, and this is, years ago when I was talking to people, they have like, different fiber lines that run to your desk.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But I don't know if all that's changed over the last, years.
I don't think it has. Not for the higher crazy levels.
Yeah. AWS Transfer Family now supports changing identity provider type on the server. This allows you to basically boot to service managed Active Directory or custom IDP on existing SFTP, FTPS, and FTP servers without service interruption, only the need to recreate servers during authentication migrations. This feature enables zero downtime authentication migrations for organizations transitioning between identity providers or consolidating authentication systems, which is particularly useful for companies undergoing mergers or updating compliance requirements. The capability is available across all AWS regions where Transfer Family operates, with no additional pricing beyond the standard Transfer Family costs, which are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Organizations can now adapt their file transfer authentication methods dynamically as business needs evolve. Thank goodness, because this was dumb. This is always dumb to me. If they could also make it so you can, add SFTP or the other types of FTPS, etc., to an existing Transfer Family node, that would also be great. But I'll take authentication first.
Yeah. Any kind of configuration change that requires you to destroy and recreate isn't fun. Like, I do believe that, we should architect for such things and be able to redirect things with DNS traffic, which, never goes wrong, never causes anyone any problems. But, it is terrible when that happens, because even when it works, you're sort of nervously doing it the entire time.
Well, and the thing about like these legacy protocols, they all use key exchanges and known host configurations and all these things that are sort of dumb but made sense when they first came out, and now in a cloud world don't make sense, but that's part of the protocol and part of this RFC spec. And so, rebuilding an SFTP server that now all of a sudden is a new node and a new key now breaks customers in a really awful way that you couldn't avoid because you had to update to Active Directory integration versus service managed authentication. That's the part that sucked. So not having to do that is very nice. AWS is introducing EBS IOPS exceeded check and instance EBS throughput exceeded check metrics that return binary values 0, 1 to indicate whether an EC2 instance has exceeded their EBS optimized performance limits. helping identify bottlenecks without manual calculations. These metrics enable automated responses through CloudWatch alarms, such as triggering instance resizing or type changes when I/O limits are exceeded, reducing manual intervention for performance optimizations. Available at no additional cost with 1-minute granularity for all Nitro-based EC2 instances with attached EVS volumes across all commercial and GovCloud regions, and China even. And this addresses a common blind spot where applications experience degraded performance due to exceeding instance-level I/O limits rather than volume-level limits, which many users overlook when troubleshooting. Guilty as charged. Particularly useful for database workloads and high-throughput applications where understanding whether the bottleneck is at the instance or volume level is critical for right-sizing decisions.
This would have solved me a lot of headache when GP3 came out.
Yes.
And you had to you convert it over, they're like, it's cheaper. You're like, great. And then you're like, wait, I have to play with these levers. I have to understand, used to, what was it, like 3 gigabytes per IOPS up to X, whatever. And it was like, that was easy math. I can multiply by 3. But now I have to do this complicated back to the NAP to see if my throughput versus my IO and everything else matches. And that, I'm not gonna lie, bit me a few times pretty hard in customer environments.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's funny because it's like, I hope it does exactly what it says, but it's also like they're calculating this based off of that same math. So it's as long as that data is clean going in, it'll be fine.
Yeah. I mean, just even having an indicator that you could, hey, there's something wrong with the instance level, even if it's binary 1 or 0, that's still very helpful.
Yeah.
It's a starting point to at least look at to see, okay, 3 times today we hit over, so maybe we're fine, but it's done 20 times in the last, hour. We may have a problem here, guys.
We're on the bubble of a major problem. So.
Yeah. And maybe it's not the 27th thing I check, right? It's one of the top 3 things I check, so there's an alarm for it now.
Yeah. Well, it was like you only had to go through how many T instance outages before you were like, oh, check that quota first.
Yeah.
That was one of those things I wrote a custom check for a long time ago that ran in a Lambda that would go through all my T series in an environment once an hour to see if you went over it, just to send an alarm, because so many times I had dealt with customers that did that.
It has no CPU. I don't understand why it doesn't have CPU. Well,
it just stopped working randomly.
Yeah, it was working just fine. Yeah, I've been there, done that. I have a similar thing with EFS right now that I'm trying to debug, where all these nodes attached to EFS volume all of a sudden just stop working at the same time. It's like, the only thing common is EFS. Sure, there's some limitation I'm missing. I'm trying to find. So I'm going to have to check this one out. Maybe it's IOPS for right instance type, but I doubt it, because that wouldn't make sense for all the nodes, but we'll see.
You wish you're that lucky. Yeah,
I know.
It's gonna be some sort of underlying NFS lock. Terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I know it's an NFS problem of some kind. I just don't know what it is yet. Like some operation is putting a lock on this thing and then screwing everything until it basically gets killed by the health track and then clears
and we'll
the lock
release
file.
it. Yeah. I hate these issues. They're no fun.
Yes. All right, GCP this week. Google Cloud Parameter Manager provides centralized configuration management that separates application settings from code, supporting JSON, YAML, and unformatted data with built-in format validation for JSON and YAML types. And this is a practical guide to how to use it. And I had forgotten that this existed. So today, I learned that parameter store exists in Google. And you should use this if you need non-secret based parameters to be stored somewhere. This is the place to do it. And I'm a very heavy user of parameter store on AWS. I love it, and you should all use it for any of your dynamic configuration, especially if you're moving containers between environments. This is the bee's knees, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, this is, our show title could have been CloudPod realizes that there's a parameter manager in GCP, because I had no idea it existed, and because I love this model and I've missed not having it since migrating out of AWS. And so I will probably be porting stuff over to it because I'm doing stupid things like back in the days, like reading environment variables out of S3 objects, like not any fun.
So many memories.
And I do like that you can reference existing secrets in the config, right? So you can still put your secret in Secret Manager, but then you're referencing it as part of their
parameter. Yeah, which is cool. That is a bit of annoyance when you have both in AWS, because you have to use different SDK portions. So it's kind of nice that you can do a pass through. Or you just use the parameters for secrets, which is also a thing you can do because Amazon built it twice.
Yep.
So
sure did.
I guess the question now is, Matt, does Azure have a parameter store?
Hold on. We don't use parameter store for that. We just use Key Vault and just put it all in secrets and leverage it in that way.
Sounds expensive.
It's good enough.
In Amazon, it's expensive because I forget what it is.
40 cents.
But
Key Vault has
40
a
cents
weird
per secret,
pricing.
but then in SSM, it's like 10 cents. So it's like 4x the cost.
So from a Reddit post 6 years ago, Azure Key Vault secrets are really the equivalent to SSM parameter store. But if you're using app services, there's a whole section in there for storing parameters in the apps running in the app service. I'm like, oh,
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do
great.
it. Don't
I'm
do it.
good.
And there's an easy way, just like there is in AWS, to link, say, here's the environment variable, link directly to secret, and it automatically pulls it so you don't have to deal with it. It's the same thing. Just do that.
There's also an Azure app configuration service.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's what they're saying is the explore fast scalable parameter storage for app configuration. That's what Azure that's what they say it is.
I just use Key Vault. It's 3 cents per 10,000 transactions, and it's small enough that it's fine, and I know everything's secure. And I don't have to deal with the flip side of somebody accidentally putting a secret in clear text because they put it in the wrong location, which I definitely have had to deal with. So everything goes in there, and it's just locked down, and we have we deal with it. We have a process to input data into there in a secure manner.
What's the cost delta between that, though? Is it like Amazon? Because secrets on Amazon are outrageous.
Secrets are like 40 cents, I think, on Amazon, and then they charge you, I think, versus this is like, it's $1 for the Key Vault, if I remember correctly. And then it's
For the entire vault?
For the entire vault, I think.
Okay. Because the 40 cents per secret is the rough part of AWS.
Which that price has never come down, which is just crazy to me. I thought that would come down over time, but so it says so Azure Key Vault. Thanks, Claude. Always appreciate. Azure Key Vault pricing is 5 cents per key per month. We get the first 10,000 operations free for the software protected ones. If you do the HSM ones, it's $1 per key per month.
Yeah, those are different. Those, if you need those, because that's in the premium vault, guys.
Oh,
so
right.
That's the one that's HSM backed and everything else.
And then the Azure app configuration pricing is up to 10 requests per day per store for free, or with 10 megs of storage free, and then $1.20 per day for the standard tier, which includes 200 million requests per month and a gigabit of storage. An additional requests are 0.06 per million. And they say this is better for feature flag management, high volume configuration reads, and dynamic configurations that change frequently, where the low volume secret changes is better with Key Vault. So there you go. Per Claude.
It's like, what was that service they deprecated that was in like AWS SSM that was supposed to be like, hey, we can change
the feature flagging service that they just killed? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That one.
Config, right?
It's part of config, yeah.
No, that was like part of SSM called config or something, just confuse everyone.
I mean, maybe. But
the AWS config.
I will never attest to keeping or SSM services separated or knowing what they are.
I mean, there was a feature flagging feature in. Oh, and there wasn't there a feature flagging they put into CloudWatch? That was the weird one.
CloudWatch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the one I didn't.
And they released
understand.
them within like 3 or 4 months of each other too, which also.
And then they killed the CloudWatch one though. Like it only lasted a year. That one's already dead. So I don't think anyone used it because everyone was like, "Why would you put that in CloudWatch?" That makes no sense. But here we are. Anyways, parameter store, Google, thanks. And apparently Matt says don't use Azure, just use Key Vault.
I mean, it works for me. Haven't gotten in trouble with my CFO yet, so we're good.
Fair enough. The cross-site interconnect is now generally available, simplifying L2 connectivity between data centers using Google's global network infrastructure, eliminating the need for complex multi-vendor setups and reducing capital expenditures for WAN connectivity. The service offers consumption-based pricing with no setup fees or long-term commitments, allowing customers to scale bandwidth dynamically and pay only for what they use, though specific price details weren't provided in this announcement. Built on Google's 3.2 million kilometers of fiber and 34 subsea cables, Cross-Site Interconnect provides 99.995, 3 nines and a 5 percent SLA that includes protection against cable cuts and maintenance windows, with automatic failover and proactive monitoring across hundreds of cloud interconnect POPs. Financial services and telecommunication providers are early adopters, with Citadel reporting stable performance during their pilot program, highlighting use cases for low latency trading, disaster recovery, and dynamic bandwidth augmentation for AI ML workloads. As transparent Layer 2 service enables MACsec encryption between remote routers with customer-controlled keys, while providing programmable APIs for infrastructure as code workflows and real-time monitoring for latency, packet loss, and bandwidth utilizations.
I'm just still impressed by the number of millions of kilometers of fiber.
It's a lot of fiber.
I mean, I like this just because of, the heavy use of it, infrastructure as code availability. Some of these deep down network services across the clouds don't really provide that. It's all just sort of click ops, or if not service or like a support case. So this is kind of neat. And I do like that you can dynamically configure this and stand it up and tear it down pretty quickly. Although your mileage does vary with Google, because if you recreate the same name, I bet you money it will fail.
I assume that they're able to give you the global aspect because the global VNets, VPCs that they have. The way it's built out that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is more like the equivalent of like a direct connect gateway in Amazon.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It was direct connect, but it's global, which normally your direct connects into a given region. But then, given that Google has the global model more than anything, I was trying to make sure I connected all those pieces in my head together.
You can put multiple regions in a direct connect gateway. I forget the details because it's been too long, but I do remember defining a global architecture that only had three gateways, or direct gateways. Yeah. Anyway,
but I thought you paid a boatload to backhaul over their dark fiber at that point.
Pricing? No, of course not.
He doesn't deal with money.
No, that's a later thing.
He's in security. He just spends it. Got it.
Yeah.
I feel like security was in your veins well before you merged into the world completely.
You can't put a price on security either. That's all.
All right, security person.
Yeah. I sure can put a price on it, and it's expensive.
And Justin does it all the time. Nope.
Let me go show you the budget line item for you.
Yeah, prove the risk. Oh.
But I just wanted the new tool to play with.
Speaking of budget savings, Bigtable is now introducing tiered storage that automatically moves data older than a configurable threshold from SSD to infrequent access storage, reducing storage costs by up to 85% while maintaining API compatibility and data accessibility through the same interface. The infrequent access tier provides 540% more storage capacity per node compared to SSD-only nodes, enabling customers to retain historical data for compliance and analytics without manual archiving or a separate system. Time series workloads for manufacturing, automotive, or IoT benefit most, with sensor data, EV battery telemetry, and factory equipment logs can keep recent data on SSD for real-time operations, while moving older data to cheaper storage automatically based on the H policy. Integration with Bigtable SQL allows querying across both tiers, and logical views enable controlled access to historical data for reporting without full table permissions, simplifying data governance for large datasets. Currently in preview with pricing at approximately 0.26 or 2.5 cents per gigabyte month for infrequent access storage compared to 17 cents per gigabyte per month for SSD storage. So that's basically roughly 8x cheaper, representing significant savings for organizations storing hundreds of terabytes of historical operational data. That's a big savings.
Yeah. It's huge, and it's automatic, which is great. And this is my favorite part about these services. And to illustrate that I'm still a cloud guy at heart, whenever I'm in an application and I'm loading data and I go back, like I want to see a year's data or whatever, and it takes that extra like 30 seconds to load, I actually get happy because I know what they're doing on the back end.
Spending more money because you have to hit that infrequent access charge.
Well, yeah, they're probably just referencing it from the colder storage. It doesn't necessarily mean it's more money.
Well, normally frequent access has a charge per usage. I feel like.
That's not my problem. I'm a user in this case.
See prior statements.
Yeah.
No, it's great. It's amazing the amount of companies that don't, and the amount of platforms that don't really have that tiered structure. Everyone's like, we need it now, and but you don't. And it's like the number one thing whenever we set up an S3 bucket, blob storage, whatever you want to call it, Google storage. Like you need a just like day one when I set up anything, you set up that tiering because it just makes your life better in the future versus retroactively doing it and seeing a $300,000 bill that comes across because you set it up. So set it up at the beginning, you're getting those savings and you built it correct. So it's great to see a lot of other platforms adding that in. It just, always bothers me. It's not done day one, but I get it.
Google's giving us a new instance this week with the A4X Max instance powered by NVIDIA GB300 NVL72 with 72 Blackwell Ultra GPUs and 36 Grace CPUs, delivering 2x network bandwidth compared to the A4X and 4x better LLM training performance versus A3 H100 base VMs. System features 1.4 exaflops per NVL72 system and can scale to clusters twice as large as A4X deployments. GKA now supports DRA-Net, or Dynamic Resource Allocation Kubernetes Network Driver, in production starting with A4X Max, providing topology-aware scheduling of GPUs and RDMA network cards to boost bus bandwidth for distributed AI workloads. This improves cost efficiency through better VM utilization by optimizing connectivity between RDMA devices and the GPUs. The GKA Inference Gateway integrates with NVIDIA NeMo guardrails to add safety controls for production AI deployments, preventing models from engaging in undesirable topics or responding to malicious prompts. The integration combines model-aware routing and auto-scaling with enterprise-grade security features. Vertex AI Model Garden will support NVIDIA Nemotron models as NIM microservices, starting with Llama Nemotron Super v1.5, allowing developers to deploy open-weight models with granular control over machine types, regions, and VPC security policies. And Vertex AI training now includes curated recipes built on the NVIDIA NeMo framework. The A4X Max is available in preview through Google Cloud Sales representatives and leverages Cluster Director for lifecycle management, topology-aware placement, and integration with managed Lustre storage. Pricing details were not disclosed in the announcement. That's a lot of cool hardware stuff that I do not understand, and it makes me sort of miss my hardware days.
Mm-hmm. I was, I'm always the wrong guy, like for personal stuff, just because I downsize everything, and it's like, oh, I don't even have stuff that has fans anymore because it's like I don't really need to, like Raspberry Pi or death. And so, like I just rolled out my first home lab GPU server, and it's tiny compared to this, like really, really tiny, microscopic.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, how do I do this cheaper?
Yeah.
And this is where, how do I spend more money?
Well, hopefully they're making more money, although I don't think anyone's really doing that all that well with AI yet. Someone's bound to.
Moving on to Azure, they also are giving us the GB300 NVL72 instances. They deployed the first production cluster with over 4,600 of them, in fact, featuring the Blackwell Ultra GPU, enabling AI model training in weeks instead of months and supporting models with hundreds of trillions of parameters. The Indy GB300 V6 VMs deliver 1440 petaflops of FP4 performance per rack with 72 GPUs, 37 terabytes of fast memory, and 130 terabytes per second NVLink bandwidth, specifically optimized for reasoning models, agentic AI, and multimodal generative AI workloads. Azure implemented the 800 gigabits NVIDIA Quantum X800 InfiniBand networking with full fat tree architecture and sharp acceleration, doubling effective bandwidth by performing computations and switch for improved large-scale training efficiency. The infrastructure uses standalone heat exchanger units and new power distribution models to handle high-density GPU clusters, with Microsoft planning to scale to hundreds of thousands of Blackwell Ultra GPUs across global data centers. OpenAI and Microsoft are already using these clusters for frontier model development, with the platform becoming the standard for organizations requiring supercomputing scale AI infrastructure. A lot of hardware.
Yeah.
Lots of hardware.
I mean, that last line to me is like, companies looking for scale. No, companies with a boatload of money. That's what this is for.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you're running out of the end of your Mac and you have to spend a lot of money, you tell your AI team to go spend some money.
Yeah. You have to call an AI team to spend money. I don't think you have to. I think that's built.
Sorry, you hire an AI team. How about that?
All right. Our next story is Azure databases for PostgreSQL now with high availability net can now scale in under 30 seconds compared to the previous 2 to 10 minute window, reducing downtime by over 90% for database scaling operations. The feature targets production workloads that require continuous availability during infrastructure changes, particularly benefiting e-commerce platforms, financial services, and SaaS apps that can afford extended maintenance windows. Oh, that's right. It cannot afford extended maintenance windows. Like, that doesn't make any sense. This near zero downtime scaling works specifically with HA-enabled Postgres instances, leveraging Azure's high availability architecture. Pricing remains unchanged from standard PostgreSQL rates. The reduced downtime translates to lower operational costs by minimizing revenue loss during scaling events and reducing the need for complex maintenance scheduling. This positions it well against its competitors. So nice.
I mean, they've had this for forever on Azure SQL, which is their Microsoft SQL platform. So, it doesn't surprise me. It more surprised me that this was already a 2 to 10 minute window to scale Seems crazy for a production HA service. Like, how are you handling that in the past?
Yeah, I was trying to look at like Aurora for Postgres, and like I thought they could do it dynamically without any downtime for a
Yeah,
while
they do.
now. So like I don't know if this is like more of like the the Azure model if they're managing your Postgres servers for you.
It's RDS under the. I mean, it's equivalent of RDS. It just you couldn't
Yeah.
scale very well.
OneLake is now bringing you APIs that support the Azure Blob Storage and ADLS API, allowing existing applications to connect to Microsoft's Fabric unified data lake without code changes. Just swap endpoints to OneLake. What could go wrong? This API compatibility eliminates migration barriers for organizations with existing Azure storage investments, enabling immediate use of tools like Azure Storage Explorer with OneLake while preserving existing scripts and workflows. The feature targets enterprises looking to consolidate data lakes without rewriting applications, particularly those using C# SDKs or requiring DFS operations for hierarchical data management. Microsoft provides an end-to-end guide demonstrating open mirroring to replicate on-premise data to OneLake Delta tables, positioning this as a bridge between traditional storage and Fabric's analytical ecosystem. No pricing for the OneLake API access. Cost likely will follow standard Fabric capacity pricing models, which are impossible to calculate or predict.
Yeah, that little kind of throwaway comment about like positioning this as a bridge between traditional storage and Fabric caught my attention. So I was reading a little bit about this because it is sort of an interesting idea. Like, are applications just going to completely move away from traditional storage, or even accessing objects in buckets? And so, because this is sort of a move away from that. Not that I really understand Fabric or how it works, but kind of a neat idea.
Agreed. And I have a cloud journey for you guys this week. So there was an interesting article in InfoWorld, not a source of a lot of good news or things that I care about, but it was good to see some things. This is 8 platform engineering anti-patterns. And so basically, for those of you out there who are trying to create platform engineering teams, there's several people sometimes will talk about hitting all these issues and how do you get people to adopt them and trough a disillusionment phase, etc. of these. And so basically, InfoWorld's article basically says there's some anti-patterns that you should try to avoid to hopefully avoid some of the pain that you're now suffering. So if you already did these, sorry. But if you haven't, or you're beginning a journey, these are great tips. And so the first one is building the front end first. A big misconception in platform engineering is that the platform is the visual interface, i.e. that the platform and the developer portal are one and the same. Unfortunately, it's more than that. Focus on building a solid backend with APIs and orchestration before adding your UI is the recommendation from Luca Galante, core contributor at Platform Engineering, a popular platform engineering community. Front-end user interfaces like Backstage are a core element of platform engineering, but they aren't the full picture, and developers may prefer interacting outside the GUI portal through a CLI or an API, which is definitely what I much prefer to do. So how do you guys feel about that one?
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think that I've seen several platforms go off the rails here at exactly this level, because like you can stand up a Backstage server pretty quick and do that, but the real meat and the logic and all the value that a platform is going to give you is everything behind it. And so the tight integration with all of your existing tools. So having that come from a UI driven workflow does not make sense to me. It should always be API driven, and in a lot of cases, it shouldn't really be anything other than tight integrations and sort of declarative patterns of how services work together, like from your code repository to your deployment engine to what are your cloud APIs, and just having stuff that's very declarative and very easy. And then you can put a UI in front of it. It's much like API driven applications, right? It's just easier to develop it that way around.
It's also, what Amazon did when they first launched AWS. There were so many features that were only available in the API, and you might have been able to even see some of them in the UI, but even some you couldn't even see. They were the front end was an afterthought. I do think that as your platform develops over time, you will need to eventually add a front end to it. But if you're just standing it up, it potentially doesn't need to be something that you get day one. Maybe something that's there, but it doesn't need to be beautiful.
It needs to have shiny, pretty graphs so that you can get the next set of features for it funded. because your executives will need pretty graphs.
Ooh, you stole where I was gonna make sure you were. I thought you were gonna lead it there, and I was gonna just really drive it in with the executive comment, but you went right for Justin there.
Oh yeah. Now that AIs can write all my front ends, like I'm much like, oh yeah, no, totally, you get your pretty graphs, no problem.
Yeah,
They're still terrible, but
I love pre-charts. It's fine. All right, the second anti-pattern is lacking the product mindset. Adopting a product mindset has almost become a cliche tip in the world of platform engineering, but it's true. Not treating the platform as a product is a surefire path towards minimal use. Even the best products don't sell themselves, so you need someone out there evangelizing, driving requirements, getting feedback, and understanding what the user base requires. Internal advocacy, storytelling, and sharing early adopter success stories is critical to getting people to buy into your platform vision.
I see your platform engineering, and I raise you every single internal thing ever should have
yes,
this, right? I run every one of my apps like this, even though it's just me doing the development.
I say you don't listen to any feedback I give you on product.
I listen to you. I just don't implement it.
He might take a nap in the middle of you telling him about it, but that's a different story.
Normally he listens to me, he nods and goes, yeah, I'm not doing that. That's typically...
He tells you to his face. It's like a good product person.
Yeah, exactly.
Most product people don't tell you to your face. That's the problem. They tell you, yeah, we'll put it on the roadmap, which means never. Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. Do you want me to develop a feature for one person? No, thank you. Yeah.
But with anything you're doing, you need to have a product mindset. If you're really going to be successful with it, like you really do need to build it out and have that, sell it to people, whether it's a platform that you're developing on or, a new process that you're working on internally in your company or anything else. Like, show the value, show why it's going to make people's lives easier and better. Even as simple as something as like a Jira workflow. You still have to do this to make sure everybody's on the same page and you capture all the requirements and you kind of work through it. It's just, if you're doing your job, for lack of a better term, or you're doing most things, and you're not just coming in and punching the clock and being a worker bee where all you're doing is just pumping out code every day. Like, you have to think about these things.
I've been a part of two major sort of products, at a huge scale internally. And one was treated like a product and one was not. And one that wasn't treated like a product was a containerization platform. And, the feedback that we got upon releasing this internally was like, oh, it's cool. I just have to reconstruct and redo everything about my application to use it. And so it was a huge miss, and it was, could have been the next Kubernetes. Who knows? But no, it wasn't. But, the inverse of that is running as a product, developing features that people want and making sure that you're developing towards solving their real use case. You get so many advantages out of that. Not only are you building something that someone will use, but that you get internal evangelists who will go and sell your product and drive adoption for you. So it's a fantastic way to treat everything.
Moving on to our third anti-pattern. Top-down mandates for new technologies can easily turn off developers. It does for Ryan, for sure. Especially when they alter existing workflows without the ability to contribute and iterate. The platform drifts from developer needs, prompting workarounds. Give the team some ownership. Don't push them to adopt, is a recommendation from Tom Barkin-Benkler, Director of Product Management at Spotify. They're also the creator of Backstage, as you know. One example is Soundcheck, a Spotify made plugin to validate new code within a continuous development process. When engineers can build and customize the platform, they're part of the process and more likely to use that particular platform, he says. The shared ownership model is proving successful with 100% of employees using the company's internal version of Backstage at Spotify. So again, if there's something I don't like about your thing and I can go to give you internal open source and I can contribute to it and make it work for me and work for everybody else, then I feel contributing to the success of the platform. And that's what you want a platform to be. So this is a definitely good one. Don't try to be restrictive is basically, only the platform engineers can build the platform. Darn it. No, don't do that. Don't be that guy.
Yeah. But it is true, right? If you dictate a technology, you have to use Harness for CI/CD, right? If I got that sort of dictation of we have to do it this way,
you would rebel for the sake of rebelling. If
exactly.
I said you had to use Terraform for infrastructure as code, you would say no just because I told you to do something, Ryan.
Correct.
Let's be honest here.
That is absolutely true. But if you give me the business deliverable or the problem to solve or and make that my responsibility, then it's, the technology, not only am I going to probably end up using the same technology as the recommendation, but it's going to be better integrated because it's going to be thought through from that aspect of like, this is part of the solution and not just a thing that I'm working around. It really changes the way that you design everything if you can come at it from that point of view. And then, if it's not the best option, it gives a venue for that conversation to be like, I know that you really had your eyes on this solution, whatever it was, Kubernetes, so it's Kubernetes. But there's a better option.
I mean, the other real thing on this is also letting customers bug fix or add features themselves. If you have built a platform and you say, here it is, go launch it. And if you want, and here's the source code. I've seen teams internally, when you do something like that, say, oh, cool, we need this feature. We need to modify this thing to do it in this way, which wasn't something that you as the platform engineer ever thought of. Or, hey, we need this simple extra thing that would save us a lot of time for our thing. That thing gets fed back in. So now you're also empowering your end users to be your platform engineers.
Absolutely.
You just have to sanity check their code sometimes.
I mean, Justin and I have long rallied against service dashboards, right? And because that's the problem, is that there's always, if you don't define that in a way that allows other people to contribute, you're just gating everything through a single team and waiting for them to develop whatever you need versus owning your own destiny. I'm a big advocate of internal open source for features like that and designing your system where it can be modular enough to adopt that without being a major problem.
Number 4, not surveying your users. This is kind of similar to the product one. Throwing out steam on this article. It's okay.
Yeah.
If you build something without knowing your target audience and how you can help them, you build something you will not be implementing engineering efficiency at all. They said this is tricky because every organization is different with unique requirements for different user subsets. The feeling of being heard and understood is very important. Users are more receptive to the portal once they know it's been built after someone asks about their problems. Again, product is important.
It's the same. Yeah, exactly. The same problem we already talked about.
All right. Next up is tracking the wrong metrics. Everything you build should be measurable, says Dynatrace's Grabner. Grabner says the DORA metrics are lagging indicators from a platform engineering perspective. Similarly, a high percentage of onboarded developers using the platform may be only a surface level indicator of success and not necessarily an accurate reflection of the ROI to the business. A successful platform should improve time to market, reduce costs, and increase innovation. The starting base is a proper ROI calculation you should have before building the platform out. Well, everyone's building platform because that's the hot new thing to do without any metrics. So appreciate that insight. But this is definitely a key thing. Look at what the metrics are you're trying to measure and fix with your platform.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first one where I kind of disagree, but only kind of. Like, DORA metrics are more than just something you track internally. Like, there is standardization across an industry to basically score something that's very difficult to sort of score across a large volume. But yeah, if you pick apart the individual DORA metrics, like maybe releasing 17 times a day doesn't really meet your business problem, right? Because you can deploy a new Docker container 17 times a day, but you can't really make it live because it doesn't go through, all the things that you need to launch a production app, like performance testing, any kind of QA review, all those types of things. And so it's like you can solve one aspect of this problem and then not really introduce any value. And I've seen that happen a lot of times across platform development.
Matt's got nothing.
Yeah, nothing. I agree.
Perfect. All right. The next one is copy the platform and approaches of others. Just because Spotify, Expedia, and American Airlines did it and did it well, and they wrote a paper about it, doesn't mean you should do it exactly the way they did it. That's what they're saying. You understand what your business requirements are. You're getting the product mindset of this. You need to think about what the return on investment is going to be. Leverage them for, I would say, insights, but don't necessarily copy them verbatim, because what they may need for CI/CD or for Kubernetes is not what you will need for CI/CD or Kubernetes.
Definitely. A really good example of this is Etsy, right? Etsy is also on the Backstage bandwagon, but they took a very different approach, but they definitely took the learnings from Spotify and customized it to their own use case and their own workflows, which I thought was, and they talked about it and documented all that out. And it was very interesting to read their use of that.
I mean, I also say build the right tool at the right place at the right time. You are not Google, you are not Facebook, you are not Spotify. The odds are you are a medium-sized business. You probably don't need everything that these massive enterprises have. There's probably some trimmed down version that you really need for your team. While it's always fun to say I built, X, Y, Z, and it can do all these things, but in reality, if your company's never going to use them, or it's overly complicated or whatever, like, you're not going to gain the value out of it. So, it goes back to build all the prior ones, understand what your product is and everything else, and sell your product and treat it like a product. But leverage what your teams need and build the platform for what you need at that time. And know that there's incremental stuff. So maybe you build for 10x where you are, or 5x where you are now, or 10x where you are now, but don't build for 100x of where you are, and you over-engineer it to the point when the platform's not useful. And I feel like a lot of people will just try to straight up copy these massive enterprises. Kubernetes. Hey, I'm a 12-person company and I need a full Kubernetes stack that can do everything in the world. I'm going to run my own and do all this. Is that a really good use of your time? Maybe if you're 100,000 person company, you have a team dedicated to it, and sure, it makes more sense. But maybe at your size, you don't need that level of backstage for a 3-person development team. Just saying.
All right, the next one for us is over-engineering on day one, a problem that all three of us suffer from.
Which I think I just talked about too, without looking at what the next one was. Sorry.
No worries. Some platform teams attempt to boil the ocean from day one. Instead, harnesses Mishra recommends starting by streamlining basic concrete developer touchpoints and CI/CD and introducing additional complexity incrementally, which is a good path for any software project, really. In general, but definitely over-engineering on day one. Don't get overly mess.
Yeah. I've gotten a lot better in the last few years, just learning new strategies on how I can build foundational stuff with room for future development, right? Like it's designed up front for my over-engineering because I'm going to do that. And I make myself feel better by like, oh, I can plug in modules here later. And now I can focus on what that MVP value really is and getting a product out there, so that I can show value much faster than before, right? Like 3 years of development for an internal platform, is hard for people that are to understand, right? And so you can talk about it all you want, but when it takes that long, they're like, what can you do for me now, right? We've got business problems now. Maybe your efforts are better spent elsewhere. And so just, sort of building your MVP, not over engineering, but also making sure that you design something up front where it can be extendable is super important.
Yeah, the modular based approach, I think, is important, in any software development, I think it is, but specifically when you're building a platform, start with literally the most MVP you can and know where you want to go. And make sure you haven't architected yourself into a corner day one, but, at least set it up in a way that is, where it is modular. And I think a lot of people miss that fact of it.
The next one not to do is don't rebrand your operations team. Paul.
Hey, it's DevOps all over again.
Yeah. Paul Kennedy, co-founder and chief operating officer in Tasso, said, I've seen teams simply being renamed from operations or infrastructure teams to platform engineering teams with very little change or benefit to the organization. Yeah, I agree on this one. Platform engineering requires a culture shift. And that shift shouldn't be underestimated. And again, you don't treat your operations team like a product team. So don't treat your platform engineering team like it's just ops, because it's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a recipe for disaster if you've already rebranded your operations teams to DevOps and then realized they were just doing operational stuff. So you rebranded them to SREs, and then you realized that, there wasn't anyone doing release engineering or managing any kind of, efficiencies there. So you rebranded again, and then it's like, you're going to do that for platform engineering. It just not really, you're dancing around problems and not really hiring or having the right talent in the right places.
All right. And our final tip or anti-pattern is that thinking that platform engineering is finished. Platform engineering is never done. So yeah, you can't just throw a tiger team at it and say you're going to build this one thing and then it's going to be our platform of the future. Now you need to invest in it. And again, that product management mindset is key here to make sure that you have a roadmap and then you have continual iteration. And what worked today may not work in 2 years from now when your application is morphed into from a monolith to a microservices behemoth on Kubernetes. You'll need a different platform strategy to do that. And so if the platform's evolving as your product's evolving, that's your best scenario. And so building a platform engineering team from day one is super critical.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a gimme, but it's like technology is always changing. There's always new services. And, if you've built, something that's very tightly coupled to a specific configuration and can't adapt, and you're going to have problems because developer teams are going to move around. And if you're trying to enforce, standards or best practices, via your platform, you're just going to get worked around eventually if you don't update it and meet your customers to where they are today.
I mean, it goes back to really the second one, which is it's a product. Treat it like a product. Be in that product mindset. Like, otherwise, your end users, in this case, your other engineering teams are going to be like, why would I use this? There's no innovation on it. You got to keep improving and everything else. Otherwise, there's going to be another platform or another shiny object for the engineers to go look at.
Well, that's it for this week in the cloud. You guys, any other final thoughts on platform engineering before we move on, or anything they didn't mention as an anti pattern?
Trying to think. I can't think of anything they didn't really cover or that we didn't talk through on the show. Like, it's just important to think about these things as more than just backstage, more than just whatever component or tool you're building around. It really is a focus on, the value that you're getting, the efficiencies that you're offering the rest of the business. And Matt's got nothing.
Yeah, Matt's got nothing.
I got nothing extra.
You should build a platform team, Matt. It's fun.
It's the end of the day. It's been a long day. Azure threw me a few curveballs.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair
fair
enough. Well, we
enough.
should wrap this up anyways.
Yeah, it's getting long.
Ryan and I are gone next week, and so Matt has the task of herding the cat known as Jonathan to record next week's episode. So if he gives up, I'll be back in 2 weeks. But hopefully he can herd the cats and
See, I'm normally pretty good, but I can herd Ryan, I think, a little bit easier than Jonathan.
Yeah,
so.
Jonathan's enigma. He's there sometimes. So
he made it to the TCP talk and the prep calls. So we're in the right direction.
Yeah. As long as you coordinate in advance, you should be fine. Well, good luck to you, Matt. We will see you in 2 weeks. Ryan and I, we're going to go have fun killing brain cells elsewhere. And we will return hopefully with Azure predictions, Ryan. We had to brainstorm on that while we're gone on our trip together.
This is going to go well.
It might be the best way to actually predict. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe we can brainstorm over cocktails, Ryan, about what Azure might possibly announce. I have no idea.
You might want to also prep your AWS one while you're at it.
Yeah, so AWS is going up too. Yeah,
it is that time of year.
It is that time of year. So yeah, we will also talk about our recording schedule because we are taking some time off at Thanksgiving, a couple other things as we do here at the end of the year, and we wrap things up. So we got lots of episodes coming, but we're also taking some very well needed time off for our co-hosts and myself. And so we will see you next week. Well, I won't, but Ryan and I won't, but Matt and Jonathan, hopefully we'll see you next week here in the cloud.
Wish me luck.
All right. Yeah.
Good luck.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
And that's all for this week in cloud. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Archera. Be sure to click the link in our show notes to learn more about their services. While you're at it, head over to our website at thecloudpod.net, where you can subscribe to our newsletter, join our Slack community, send us your feedback, and ask any questions you might have. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.